Oh, baby, we got a crowd in here today. What is going on, everybody? It is Monday, March 3rd, and it is a very, very special day. What's going on, everyone? This is Rob Gardner 2025 running on, 4 hours of sleep. Feel like this year is going by in a blur. Hope you guys are all doing well. Hope you had a wonderful weekend of hanging out with the fam, chilling, whatever you were doing. I have a very special pizza here today. Let me kill this. Hold on. We're going to kill this for a second. We're going to get into that hand history in a little bit. So we're getting into the fancier stuff now. There is this place called Jupiter's. It's Jupiter's Pizzeria and Billiards. It's this 3-story bar pub, darts and pool and a few arcade games, and they have fancy pizza. And we're going thin crust today. And what's cool about this is probably a pizza you guys have never had before. This is sausage and artichoke heart. Absolutely to die for. And it comes with not the shredded, this is real Parmesan cheese. Very, very excited about this. Very, very excited to talk some poker with you today. We've got a big announcement. We're going to go through a hand history. Lots of good stuff. But first, I am going to take a bite of... That is amazing. If you've never had artichoke heart on pizza, you need to find a place that has it and try it. Oh my God. Okay. Anyways. Ignore me. What's up, Scott? What's up, Bonesaw? A lot of people in here today. That's exciting. My exciting announcement must have got everybody pumped up. So plan for today. We've got a hand history from Benny the Jet that we're going to run through. And then we've got a question from Asinine Bovine that we're going to run through. And then I'm going to show you what I've been working on for the better part of 4 or 5 months. It has been a lot of work. It about killed me, but it's done. And I'm very, very excited for what it means for a lot of you and what I think it's going to help you with. So I'm super excited about it. We'll talk about all that at the end. I got to have one more slice of this pizza. Sorry, guys. This is the best pizza we've had so far on the show. The sausage is really high quality Italian sausage. Got a little bit of spice. So good. Okay. By the way, if you're watching on Twitter or over on Twitch, head over to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@RobGardnerLive. So you can participate in chat and hang out with the crew and see what everybody else is chatting and typing. I can still see your messages on Twitch, so feel free to message me there as well, but you won't be able to see what everybody else is typing in chat. My God, that's good. All right. We will save that for later. Okay. Yeah, Scott's been going through some of the videos. We're gonna there you go. What's up, Joe? I'm gonna bring up the course on the website here in a little bit, and I'll walk you through all 62 videos, what there is to offer and why I think it can help you. obviously this course, you know, is something I made to sell and all of that stuff. But more importantly, I wanted to plug a hole in the poker education space because a lot of the material out there is long, arduous 3-hour hand histories, solver charts that are just very, very hard to memorize. It's just not fun and not very effective. So hopefully we're there. Hold on one second. All right. So we're going to bring up this hand history from Benny here. And this will be a little bit tricky to see, but I'll do my best to kind of walk you through the action. So Benny, this was the GG Masters 5 mil guaranteed, huh? Is this, I assume that's not something they run very often. This was like a really super big prize pool compared to what they normally offer. Yeah, it was the anniversary event. Okay. And this is early stages, I'm guessing. Four hours in, level 11. Okay. So we have ace queen here. Where's the button? Okay, we're UTG2, but we're only 7-handed. So we're hijack. All right. So what would really be UTG2? It says UTG, but essentially we're 7-handed. So this is UTG2. Raises to 400 at big blind 200. So a min raise. We 3-bet the hijack to 1200 with ace queen off. Pretty standard. Folds around, the blinds fold, and he defends. And the flop is queen 9-9. Rainbow here. His opponent checks. Okay, so here's the first thing I love. I like this check back. So Benny's checking back here on the flop. Now, a lot of people are going to bet this flop. And betting this flop is not terrible if you're up against a weak player or a passive player who can call really wide, who is not likely to raise a lot, and also can, you know, very likely like just call on downsizes on turn, where we basically control the pot. The more we can control the pot, the more I like betting. With GG's player pool where it is, and this being a 3-bet pot, I think this is a fantastic check. It's not likely that we're going to be able to go for 3 streets of value here, right? Like this is not a hand we're going to go bet, call, bet, call, bet, call. So we're going to need to slow down at some point. And this is the spot where our opponent's least likely to have value. Like, yeah, we could get a street of value from jacks or tens. We could get a street of value from a weaker queen for sure. Maybe 2 streets of value. Maybe we could squeeze out a street of value from like 5, 6s, 7s, 8s, some of those smaller pocket pairs. But reality is, this is just not a spot we're going for 3 streets. And even 2 streets is going to be a little bit dicey here. By checking, we kind of give ourselves the opportunity to let our opponent have some bluffs. We give the chance for them to catch up. We give some reverse implied odds to a hand like ace king if it defended. We give hands like ace 10 a chance to spike an ace and be in bad shape. So I like this check a lot. Turn, our opponent does bet half pot on this jack turn. And I think we only really have the opportunity to call here. We can't really raise and expect to get called by worse. And we're definitely never folding. So this is fine. And then we get to the river. There's 5,700 in the middle. And the river is a jack. And our opponent bets basically 10K, almost 2x pot. And now the question is call or fold. Now, before I kind of give my organic take on this, do we have any info, any reads, any insight into this player from your 4 hours at the table? Benny. No reads. Seems like you never really got a line too much. Okay. So here's the thing, right? In order for this opponent to want to lead jam all in as a bluff, they need to have, one, a hand they think has no showdown value and can't win. And two, they need a hand that they think that they can bluff effectively and get us to fold. Hey, what's up, live poker guy? It is a lot of fun. I really want to eat pizza the whole time, but I don't think anybody wants to watch me eat pizza for an hour and a half. So we start with a slice or two of pizza and then get into the fun strategy discussion. So let's just pretend this is like an elite player. You're playing Alex Foxen, and he wants to have a lot of bluffs, right? Well, the first sign that this probably isn't a bluff is actually the turn sizing, because if this player really wanted to like be elite and have some follow through bluffs on river, there would be a sizing that would be more commensurate to like basically leveraging over the last two streets, where we would go closer to like pot and then pot again, or like 3/4 pot. It wouldn't be something where we would only go half pot on turn and then just 2x bomb river. Likely an internet porn site for people eating pizza. I need to start an OnlyFans, a pizza poker and pizza OnlyFans. So like, I don't think this sizing on the turn is really indicative of somebody who is intentionally trying to set up a 2-street double barrel bluff with the intention of folding out hands. And you know, against those players, like we still can have some, like queens here could argue for checking back flop and just calling turn. Quads could definitely argue for checking back flop and just calling turn. So it's not like we're completely capped here. And their sizing's not really indicative of like a proper bluff line. Then on top of that, let's just pretend that they decided that the best way to bluff this was to go half pot, like 2x pot. It's like, what kind of hands make the best bluffs here? Well, from a zero equity standpoint, right? Like trying to turn our worst hands into bluffs because they can't win. It's going to be a lot of baby pocket pairs. Like a lot of baby pocket pairs love to check raise on double paired boards. In fact, there's a video at Ramp Poker specifically on baby pocket pair bluffs. We'll get to that in a little bit, but yeah, like it's going to be a lot of under pairs. And what under pairs are defending a 3-bet, betting half pot on this particular board on the turn, and then following through on river? Like, I just don't think that's going to be a thing. So I think we can take the baby pair bluffs out. So then the next, like, most likely bluff candidates would be random 10Xs, like ace 10 suited, ace 10 offsuit if they defend a 3-bet with ace 10 offsuit, which is pretty bad. And if they're defending a 3-bet with ace 10 offsuit, they're probably bad enough that turning ace 10 offsuit into a bluff here doesn't make a lot of sense. And let's keep in mind that ace highs have a little bit of showdown here. So, because we could take hands like 8s, 7s. We probably don't have 6s here as a 3-bet. I think probably like 7s or 8s are the cutoff. So we don't have a lot of pocket pairs that he can fold out, and their ace highs do have some showdown. I just don't think that we're in a spot where like we can really come up with any bluffs. You know, someone could argue like, well, why not turn pocket 10s into a bluff here? And the problem with turning pocket 10s into a bluff is you're basically saying, well, I'm double blocking the nut straight. Well, how good is the nut straight when there's a double paired board, right? Like nobody's shoving king 10 here, you know, when any jack or 9 just beats them. So I think this is super nutted. And I think this is a very, very easy fold. It might not feel easy in the moment, like in the game. But like it's just a spot where like if you think about all of the potential hands that our opponents can have here, you're just not going to come up with any that like realistically make for good bluffs. What are you guys' thoughts? I got to get one more slice of pizza. I'm sorry. We had so much crappy pizza. Like we had to survive Pizza Hut. We had to survive like Domino's, and now we're getting actual pizza with like cool toppings. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, see, this is why I can't do pizza on there. I can't talk and eat at the same time. And this isn't an ASMR stream. I think that a lot of players, and I do this, I will look polarized and shove pots where I'm super nutted, because it creates that desire in people where it's like, oh man, this feels so bluffy. And the curiosity really starts to get to you, and you're just very tempted to like look it up because you just want to know. This bet works really, really well in low and mid stakes tournaments. Really well. So it's one of those things where, yeah, like I think it's going to be super, super nutted. Now, if there was a different run out, or there was a way to see, you know, if there was a way to kind of like run this out in a way where like we could come up with a lot more bluffs, like maybe if the board was like 7-7 queen 9-9 or something. Or I guess it would have to be like 9-9 queen 7-7, where like there were way less full houses in our 3-bet defend ranges, and now like you had more straight draws that could like fire out. Like part of the problem here too is like, what's your most common straight draw on the flop? Jack 10 suited. Guess what Jack 10 suited has on the river? A full house, right? King 10 got there. 10-8 got there. Jack 8 has a full house. King Jack has a full house. So you're kind of dealing with like all kinds of just trouble here with how coordinated this board is. Yeah. Like literally your best bluffs here, I'm not even exaggerating, your best bluffs here are 8s on down. Like if we ran this in a solver, I don't know how many pocket, I studied this for the course. I want to say pocket 8s are probably the cutoff here. And it's like 8s 3-bet probably 40% of the time. If 7s are there, it's like 10 to 15% of the time that it 3-bets. It's going to be a smaller thing. So, you know, it's a thing where like we just don't have a lot of those pocket pairs in there. So whatever pocket pairs we do have are 100% going to be a bluff. But it's really hard. There's probably some weird ass like backdoor flush draw type hands, or unblocking backdoor flush draws. It gets kind of crazy at that point, which is why it's such a waste of time to you know, to get into that level of the tree, because you're kind of at the point where you know, if you're up against a player that is thinking on that level and you have to think on that level, you're in the wrong damn tournament. You shouldn't be in that tournament in the first place. So can we find a raise on the turn to give to any 10x a tough decision? So the problem with that is you're really just giving, you're basically going to fold out a lot of your opponent's worse hands, and you're only going to get called by better. Okay. And so when we make a bet that only folds out worse and calls but better, the only thing we're accomplishing is we're basically making the entire value of our bet equity denial, right? Like we're giving ourselves an equity denial bet, if you will. And that means that we need to do a lot of equity denial to make a bet that basically gets no value and has no bluffing merit, right? Like it needs to be really, really good equity denial. And a 10 just doesn't have that much equity. You know, a 10, I mean, it depends on what their kicker is and whatnot, right? But again, like the most likely 10s we're going to run into here have something already, right? They have a full house. They have a draw to a full house. They have top pair. So, you know, is queen 10 ever going to fold this turn? Probably not. Is 9-10 ever going to fold this turn? Absolutely not. Ace 10 is drawing to a king as well. So you're probably going to have to go like over pot. And when you do that, you're just getting absolutely value owned every time they have pocket jacks or a random 9 here, or whatever. So, you know, I think you have to be careful, with how you kind of, look at this. And I think there's just times where, you know, we're in the middle of our range. And this is the part of the problem of being in the middle of our range is the middle of our range just doesn't have a lot of options, right? Like we just have a showdown value type hand. And when we have a showdown value type hand, we're just kind of forced to try and get cheap showdown. That's really the goal of what we're trying to accomplish. So I don't think we can raise. I think you played it perfectly. And one of the annoying things about poker is sometimes there isn't a sneaky, crafty way to win the hand that's going to win consistently over time. Sometimes you just lose. All right, let me check one thing here. Yeah, no worries. I want to just run back through and make sure. By the way, those of you, if anybody in chat right now is in the Rec Poker Discord, can you just do me a favor and tell me if you can see the Poker and Pizza channel? We had a staff meeting this morning, and Chris Jones, his Discord has like a suggested channels list at the top, and he has to select which channels he can see in his list. I don't have that in my Discord. I've never seen that before. It was the first time I've ever seen it this morning, but he wasn't even able to see that channel exists. So I'm curious, like, how many of you can see it, and if any of you have that suggested channel. I'm assuming it's some kind of mode that he's like got himself in, either a really old mode or a really new mode. But yeah, I'm super curious about that because I've never seen that before. Sometimes things can be hidden if you've reviewed the posts. Yeah. Like it was weird. Like he had this suggested channels list, and when he clicked on it, it brought up a separate list of all the channels, and it had checkboxes on the right for which ones were visible and which ones weren't. And I literally, I've been in Discord for years. I've never seen that. Okay, Scott can see it. Okay, cool. So anytime you guys have hands you want reviewed or strategy questions, feel free to pop them in that channel, and we will definitely cover them. It doesn't look like we've got any others other than Asinine Bovine's question. So Jess asked this. He said, not sure if this is a subject for one session or more than one session, but what simplifications do you use when playing multi-table? It's like he knew that I was launching a course today. What simplifications do you use when playing multi-table, like ranges, pre-flop, and heuristics post-flop? Not sure if I'm explaining this well, but I hope you get the idea. I do get the idea. And I don't want to just use this question as a, let me show you this 62 video course I put together. So I want to answer this question on its own, and then we'll take a look at what I've been working on as my dogs get all hyped. So here's the problem with where poker's evolved, right? Like when we first started out, we had Super System and Phil Hellmuth's 10 Tips About Hold'em. And we had these like literal physical books. I don't think I've got somewhere in this office. I have Doyle, like one of Doyle's Super System books. I don't know where it is. I'm not going to waste time digging it out. But that's what we had. And it was literally just people's years of experience. I mean, if you go back and read some of those books today, there's some things that were like ahead of their time, but there's some things there that are just, if we're being honest, just they're laughable. Like you read them and you're just like, I can't believe this was a thing. Like, I can't believe that this is where poker was at. And then eventually things started to evolve. We got forums and the internet and all this stuff like started booming. And we got our first training site. I think it was Card Runners. Actually, somebody says there was a training site before that I don't recognize that was like really, really old. But like Card Runners was like the first mainstream training site. And it was literally like, I think $200 a month when it first started. But it was just like these guys who were crushing the game recording hand histories and just talking through the thought process, which at the time honestly had a lot of value. Because, you know, back then, I mean, how did you get anybody's thought process, right? We had poker on TV, but it was mostly this glamorous, you know, guys playing with money that wasn't their own, making these ridiculous hero bluffs and calls for great television. There wasn't a lot of practicality to what was being shown on TV. And so just getting to hear someone who, you know, had a juicy Hendon Mob or a juicy Shark Scope talk about their thought process had a lot of value. But again, it wasn't this thing that really like taught us elite level poker. It was like, here's kind of what works for me. And back then, the name of the game was aggression. If you were aggressive and you didn't punt, you were probably making a lot of money in this game. So it was just a lot of like, I'm going to 3-bet a lot. I'm going to 4-bet a lot. I'm going to C-bet a lot. I'm going to bet pot on the river a lot. Like, it was just aggression, 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 win, win, win. Black Friday happens. We come away from poker. What's up, KB? You didn't have to drop a Prime sub. I mean, thank you so much. I appreciate you, man. By the way, for those of you guys that have been enjoying my content grind, you guys have been seeing some of my clips on Instagram and Twitch and whatnot. Follow my dude KB on TikTok. And I don't know if he's posting clips on Instagram yet or not either. But man, KB, like this is me and KB. I spend 40 hours, 50 hours, 60 hours mastering and learning content and getting better at it, and figuring out visual hooks and how to like put a really high level clip out, how to engage. And I'm growing a lot. My videos on Instagram have grown almost 10x and things are booming and it's great. I'm having a blast. KB is such a goddamn marketing whiz. That guy just sits down in front of the camera and like goes viral. Just tells a story about something because he's so fucking good at what he does. But he is a fun follow both on Twitch and on TikTok especially. So make sure you give him a follow on all those socials. So yeah, all right. So poker's booming, right? Black Friday happens, we come back. And then as we start getting back into the game, this idea of like solving starts to come to fruition, where people start writing these programs that like basically brute force hack what's supposed to be equilibrium in poker. And we get this whole new realm of poker, right? Where it's like, oh, we don't have to stress about what the right thing to do is. We just crunch all these numbers and let it run for hours on end. And now we can actually literally see in a perfect world exactly what we're supposed to play. Really cool, right? It's ruined the game for a lot of people. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that GTO doesn't have value or that you can't use GTO to learn. But what I am going to tell you is it's kind of the equivalent of walking out in your backyard and seeing that your back fence, wooden back fence, is kind of rotting and you need to tear it down and you need to build a new fence. So you go in your house and you look up online and you start looking up blueprints and master plans and you order the Amazon.com build your own tank package for $250 million. And all of these parts come and you start building this huge war, like ballistic tank that weighs like 6 tons, and you spend like 5 years building this tank so that you can finally put this huge artillery shell in the tank and shoot this 3-foot section of fence. It's just a little bit overkill. And insanely complicated and insanely amount of work. And what really sucks is, and I talked about this, I don't know if it was last week or the week before. It was 2 weeks ago when I was talking about poker teaching and why poker education has gone sideways. Everybody wants their journey to be validated, right? And I've noticed this in my content as I've started putting this out and I start kind of shitting on the whole GTO movement. I get some people now in my comments that are salty because they've spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours studying GTO and memorizing challenge. And when I come in and say, well, that's cool, but you can beat low to mid stakes by just learning these 5 things, it makes them feel invalidated. It makes them feel like all of that hard work that they put in wasn't worth the effort. And there's this kind of like ego around it where it's like they, and this is just in general, like everybody wants to prove themselves in poker. They want to know they've made it. They want their accomplishments to be recognized, yada, yada, yada. So it's like, well, look, I put 300 hours into studying GTO. I want to be recognized as this hero in poker that's put 300 hours into GTO. So the idea that you could learn simple concepts in simple situations and have similar success is absolutely gut-wrenching to them, to the point where they're revolted by it. And then they come sliding into my comments. I had one guy in my comments a week and a half ago that literally, it was hilarious. Like, he must have found my reels on Instagram like one Monday morning and like literally binge watched like 30 of my reels. And every single one, he's like, writes this huge nasty tirade about how ridiculous my point is. And it was absolutely fucking hilarious because I'm like, this guy is literally cranking my engagement. Every time he watches one of my videos and puts like a paragraph of organic content response to my thing, it just gets fed out to the, algorithm to 100 more people. And he's just going through, oh, this take is terrible. I can't believe, no, this is shit. You think you can learn this game by just learning a few exploits? Man, GTO is the only way. You're never going to make it. I mean, just literally, he responded, I think, like 15 or 20 videos. And I'm just sitting there laughing the entire time, not even a little bit offended. But you have to understand that because that mentality exists, it permeates content, it permeates training sites, it permeates education, because these people work their ass off to get where they're at. And they want everybody to follow that path. So we take things that are way unnecessarily complicated and make them even more complicated. And it takes the fun out of the game. Who in the bloody hell wants to get to a flop and immediately start to try and recall in their head 4,000 different solves they've looked at over the past 2 years that are somewhat similar to the situation, and use that to ascertain what partial frequency they should be doing this action with in this node at this particular spot, and then thinking about what adjustments they want to make, and then looking at a clock and maybe randomizing it and then calculating it again. And then once they've kind of come to that decision, now starting to think about the actual opponent and maybe their shit. Why? If you do that every single street of every single hand, you're going to be absolutely exhausted an hour into your session. And you're not going to have any fun. Like, there's spots we just don't have to fucking think about. You're on the flop. You raised pre-flop. The big blind defended. You're now free to act because the opponent checked and it's a dry board. You're going to see bet. The end. Right? Like, literally, that's literally the actual, as much thought as you need to put into this. And the GTO lovers are going to sit here and say, no, you need to think about board texture. You need to think about stack to pot ratio. You need to think about what your plan is across the 3 streets. You need to think about how your range is polarized and how this is. What hand is this pairing with? If this is a value hand, what bluff hand does it look like? If it's a bluff hand, what value hand does it look like? And we need to think this and crack. They're going to add all of this noise that at the end of the day, even if they're right, adds 0.0001 EV to the decision. And it's just this ego mentality, right? Because it makes them feel better. It's a security blanket. So this is why I'm so hell-bent on this idea that for 99.99% of people in poker, for me, for you, for my friends, for your friends, for the people you hang out with, and the games you play, it's building a tank to tear down a 3-foot wooden fence. Now, yes, if you have aspirations of playing in Triton and playing, 20Ks and 50Ks and 100Ks at WSOP, you're going to need it at some point. You are. No doubt. And I don't want to talk anybody out of those aspirations. If that's your dream, fucking go for it and don't let anybody stop you. But if you want to be good at that, you still got to learn the basics. So even then, you can't get away from this idea that these simple basic concepts are the starting point for everything we do. Nobody really talks strat at the table or even off. It was like an unspoken rule to keep tricks to yourself. Yeah, that was back in the day. Poker's changed a lot, but it's still the same game. True. YouTube or one of the other platforms do an LLM summary of videos. I don't know. But I have a solution for you here in a little bit. Well, I have a solution for some of you. Some of you aren't going to want this, and that's fine. I'm not going to pressure anybody. Can't memorize every GTO spot. You can learn some concepts and apply them to your game, but you can learn a lot more from playing poker and discussing spots with others. Yes, community learning is super valuable, and experience is super valuable, as long as you're willing to learn from your mistakes. Right. Yeah. Good stuff. So here's the thing. To finish answering this question, and then I'll show you guys what I have to show you. You need to get your game to a place where your decisions are very, very simple, and the variables you use to decide those decisions are very, very simple, right? So let's just take it back to c-betting on the flop, in position, okay? The way I teach this is literally, we start with a baseline, okay? And your baseline is you're in position, you have range advantage, you are going to bet, and you're going to bet small. And that is your baseline decision. If you do not know what else to do, if you have any doubt in the world, if you're on the fence about anything, your baseline is, I'm going to bet small. And that right there relieves a lot of the anxiety in poker, because you now know that for that particular spot, you have something you can do that has a level of profit with it. Doesn't mean it's going to work every time, but it has a level of chip EV profit attached to it that you can fall back on, right? And then you're going to learn 1 or 2 or maybe 3 deviations from that. We might check. We might bet large. We might check in order to check raise. And then you're going to get very simple variables for why you would do those things, right? It's almost like a flow chart. Think of it like some of you that grew up with flow charts back in like the 80s and 90s and 2000s. It's just a flow chart. I'm going to bet, but if the board has 3 cards, 8 or lower, I'm going to check because my opponent can have a lot of those cards. That's a very simple variable that's very easy for you to ascertain. It's not subjective. It's not, is my opponent super aggressive? He's got a backpack and a hoodie, so it's just literally simple. Are there 3 cards on the flop that are 8 or lower? No. Okay. Yes. You know what? I'm going to check back everything but my best value hands. You get these decisions down to very simple variables because all you're trying to do is slow the game down and give yourself very easy, comfortable decisions. The reason this game gets so hard, and the reason, if we're being honest, and I know a lot of you aren't going to own up to this, but the reason a lot of you aren't having fun playing poker anymore is because every goddamn decision you get into, you're faced with a spot and you're just thousands of pieces of information thrown at you. You're thinking about your position. You're thinking about their position. You're thinking about your range. You're thinking about their range. You're thinking about whether their range is really their range or not their range, or if they have an augmented range, or if they even know what the hell a range is. And then you're thinking about stack to pot ratio and depth and the levels of the tournament, when the blinds are going to go up and how much money is up top and what the pay jumps are. And then you're thinking about GTO and equilibrium and bluffing and polarizing and linear. And you're literally throwing 5,000 things at yourself for the most simple decision on the goddamn planet. And then the worst thing is, after you tried to take all of those pieces of information and cram them into one decision, all you're left with is you make a decision, you're like, God, I have no fucking clue if I made the right decision or not. And then when it goes bad, now you have all of these things to second guess, because you're like, well, maybe I didn't take piece of information 467 and weigh it enough, but maybe piece of information 232, I weighed too much. How the hell is this game supposed to be fun? Have you guys ever had like a game night? You have some friends come over and they're like, oh, we got this new game for you to try. And you're like, okay, yeah, I love games. And they pull this board game out and the rule book is a fucking book with like 87 pages in it. Like, have you ever been in that experience? And then they go to like page 1 and they read through all the rules on page 1, and then they lick their finger and they like peel to page 2 and you're like, Jesus Christ, like, what are we doing? This is not fun, right? This is like insane. Like, I'm going to have to go take a college course to understand how to play this game. And yeah, I'm sure if I had all the rules memorized, the game would be a blast. Those games aren't fun. The best games are when the game comes and you can learn the game in 3 to 5 minutes and play it. And yeah, you might still suck at it after 3 to 5 minutes, but you at least understand what the hell's going on. You know the decisions and you get better over time. So if that's not fun, what the hell is the fun of a game where the way we teach the game is taking one of literally infinite possibilities of how a hand can play out and throw it into a computer machine that runs a bunch of random simulations and says, in this 1 in a million time that you'll never be in again, where everything is perfect, where daisies are bright and yellow and milk tastes like the best milk on the planet and the sun's always shining and the temperature's always 72 degrees outside and your opponent is a perfect robot and you're a perfect robot, this is what you should do. Now memorize it and do that a billion more times. Give me a fucking break. If I had a nickel for every big river bet I called and lost with someone I have very few hands on. Yeah. I refer to this as the difference between being effective versus worrying about being as efficient as possible. And that's the thing. You don't have to get to that level. You've been sold this idea that GTO is the answer to everything. And it's not. Okay? It's not. You don't need to learn like 14 styles of martial arts and MMA to win a fight against your grandmother. And I hope you're not fighting your grandmother. But these opponents that we play are not good. You see some of the crazy stuff. You complain about some of the crazy stuff, right? Oh my God, this guy just shoved 100 big blinds pre-flop with 6 deuce suited. Please tell me why you need to study GTO to beat the guy that shoves 100 big blinds pre-flop with 6 deuce suited. Please tell me why we need to go node lock that and figure out what our calling range is and then look at how we can balance our range versus 100 big blind 6 deuce suited shoves. It's not a thing. I'll be honest, that is exactly it. I've gotten to the point where I'm thinking it is really worth it to do. Is it really worth it to do this much work for a very small ROI? Yeah. And the answer is no. And the answer is you do not have to do that much work to have a decent ROI. So let me give you a... First off, did I kind of answer your question high level, Jess? I want to make sure. Oh, my F-bomb filter's been off for all of 2025. I don't give a shit. One of the things... I finally am in a place I just do not care what anybody thinks. And it's the best free... it tilts me that it took me 45 years to get there. And a lot of work. And I probably needed therapy. But I just did the work myself. It's such a nice place to be. One of my favorite comments I give people is you can't study for stupid. You can't. It's a very good point. And Bad Bro makes a good point. All right, cool. I wanted to make sure I gave that question its own merit and didn't just use that question to talk about a poker course. But I want to walk you through what I have here. Okay. So here's what I did. Back last fall, when I had the ridiculous idea to even attempt this, and then I spent literally weeks losing sleep over this because I was absolutely terrified to put this out here. I thought about everything I didn't like about training sites. Now, I want to say that training sites aren't bad in of themselves, but training sites assume a very high level of knowledge that you're already out. They assume you're already at a place in your game that you can take in the information from those sites, analyze it, interpret it, apply it, pull things out of it. Like, it is not plug and play. It is not just watch this 3-hour video and now you're better at poker. So I went through like all of my experiences, all the different sites I was memberships at. I've had a lot of different memberships over the years, as I'm sure many of you have as well. And I looked at the things I liked and I looked at things a different light. And there were some key things that I wanted to plug that wasn't out there. The first thing was I wanted short lessons. Like, I can't tell you how many times I, as a quote full-time poker player who doesn't have a day job, who my kids are grown up and don't need me, so I don't have a lot of family obligations. I have a lot of free time. My wife is a very independent person. She's perfectly fine reading books on the couch all weekend long, and if I spend the entire weekend playing poker, she's like, I hope you made money. Like, I have a very, very nice life on the time side of things. And I get frustrated when I come in and I'm like, oh, I want to work on my check raising, and I pull up this check raising video on this training site and it's 2 hours and 41 minutes. And there's no way on the planet I'm getting through a 2 hour and 41 minute video in one stretch. And then on top of that, there's a whole bunch of stuff in there that's like a really deep level. So I have to watch the video 2, 3, 4 times to really let it sink in. Hated it. I'm like, we need to make videos short. So every video in this course is between 6 and 15 minutes. I wanted people to be able to look at a video, understand the concept, take a short 5-question quiz to make sure that they got their head wrapped around the core components, and then be able to just think about it throughout the rest of their day, right? You don't have to study for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours a day to be good. You can listen to this on the way to your workplace, literally in the car. Like, pull it up on your phone and just listen to it. So that was really important to me. The second thing that was really important to me was I wanted to teach the foundational concepts of poker in a way that was easy to understand. Because a lot of the high-level strategy that training sites teach you, in order for you to really understand how it all works, you got to understand how all the pieces come together. Sorry, I didn't mean to boom my mic there if that was loud. You know, all of these fancy GTO decisions where people are trying to decide which, bucket they're in and balancing their ranges, it all still comes down to really basic concepts like board texture, right? Streets of value and how much value we have. The purpose of a bet. Is a bet a value bet? Is it a bluff? Is it an equity denial bet? Is it protection? And a lot of these sites just assume that you have a really good understanding of these things. Now, I think everybody kind of has a rough idea of kind of what these concepts are. If I was to say, which board is scarier to you, a board with a flush draw and a straight draw, or a board that's completely dry with no draws, it's not hard to figure out which one. But the implications of that and how that interacts with other concepts is really, really important. What's up, One Dull Geek? Good to see you, my friend. Thank you so much for the Prime sub. So I broke this course down into 3 sections, and the first section was concepts. And I just went through and I made a list of every concept that I use on a daily basis that has helped me understand GTO. And I wrote a lesson for it. And I made sure that every single lesson was 15 minutes or less and really broke these concepts down into easy to understand lessons. For example, there's a lesson here on polarized ranges, right? Now, some of you know what polarized ranges are. Some of you don't know what polarized ranges are. And the analogy, it looks like I got punched in the face. I'm going to have to change that thumbnail. The analogy I use for polarized ranges is an Oreo cookie, okay? An Oreo cookie has a wafer, cream filling, and a wafer. And this is exactly what a polarized range is. The top wafer are your best value hands. Those are the hands we're going to bet in a polarized range because we're trying to get value. The bottom wafer is our bluffs, right? This is that polarized range where we're betting strong hands and we're betting bluffs, and it makes us really, really hard to play because we don't know which one it is. We don't know if it's the top wafer when we see the bet. We don't know if it's the bottom wafer. That's pretty straightforward. But if you have two wafers, okay, and you don't have cream filling, you don't have an Oreo cookie. The thing that holds the Oreo cookie together is the cream filling. Well, what's the cream filling in this analogy? The cream filling is the part of your range that you're holding back from betting, okay, that protects that. So let's say you get to a spot on the turn and you're out of position and you decide you want to polarize, right? And so you think about your best bets that you want to make and you think about some bluffs you want to make. Well, here's the thing. Most people, that's all they think about. That's their whole Oreo cookie, which would really suck. It would not be very good. But when you check, guess what your opponent's going to do? Even bad opponents, they're going to bet. And if we're always putting our best hands in the top wafer and we never have any good hands in the cream filling, then every time we check, our opponent just kicks our ass. Because they're just going to bet with reckless abandonment. Oh, you checked. You don't have anything. I bet. And we're just going to overfold because we don't have anything. So the key to building a polarized range is what good hands we're going to put in that cream filling that allow us to be protected so that when we do check or take a passive action, which we need to do from time to time, our opponents just can't run us over. And that is a great analogy. That is the Oreo cookie that is a polarized range. Now, isn't that so much easier to understand than a 3-hour lecture on GTO with a whole bunch of shelves and showing you partial frequencies and all of that fancy shit? Right? Like, now you get it. These concepts don't have to be hard. So this course has 24 concepts. I could have put more in, but I feel like these are the 24 that really you need to know to beat these entry-level games and have a good ROI. And then I put a second section in, which was situations. And this was another thing I wanted to shift about education in the poker industry. Because a lot of education in the poker industry, again, are these really, really complex thought processes. And so I wanted to go through, okay, we're on offense in the flop. Offense is like, I explained this in the course. There's an actual video on offense versus defense. It's just a different way of teaching having the lead that I think is actually better. But like, we have the lead or we're on offense and we're on the flop in position. Just like I was talking about before. Here's our baseline. Here's the couple reasons we would deviate. Here's the couple variables. Now, I say this in the introduction video. Well, yeah, Geek says, oddly polarized range makes more sense for me from a mathematical perspective. Yeah, bro, because you're like a programmer with elite level math. You're not probably the average person approaching things like this. And again, look, GTO is out there for people that think on like mathematical level. Like, I'm not out here trying to say this is the only way to learn. There are a lot of different ways to learn. And there's a lot of products out there, but there's not a lot of products out there that learn this way. And I think this kind of plugs a hole that a lot of people have had. So these situations, it's like, if you can learn a baseline and you can learn a few options to deviate and a few variables to deviate from it, you now can be in any situation where you're on offense in position on the flop and never be in a situation where you're grossly confused. Because we're simplifying it down to where the decisions are simple. Now, if you were to get this course and binge watch it Netflix style in a weekend, it's not going to do shit for you. You're not going to get anything out of this. And some of you, God bless you, the reason you suck at poker is because every time you get an opportunity to learn, you binge watch what you're going to learn and you half-ass it and you don't take the time to learn it. And spoiler alert, that doesn't work. So some of this, it doesn't matter what place you learn from or what training site or what coach you hire. If you don't put the effort in, you're not going to get anything out of it. But something like this, to watch a 15-minute video or a 10-minute video or an 8-minute video, take a few notes, really take the time to learn and understand that and practice it and get comfortable with it. You do that for flop, you do that for turn, you do that for river, you do that for multi-way pots. You start to learn some of these concepts like leading on flops, leading on turns. All of a sudden, you just start eliminating all these spots where you don't know what to do. And that's going to do some things for you. It's going to boost your confidence, which confidence is very, very important in poker. It's going to reduce the stress and anxiety, which sucks, right? Especially when those of you that like to play tournaments, you like to play those big prize pools, and you get that 2 or 3 times a year you make a deep run. That's a hell of a lot more fun when you know what you're doing, you're confident in your decisions, than it is when you're like terrified to click the button because you're literally like, I have no idea. Bet, check, call, raise, jam. Fuck, I don't know, right? Getting these down makes it a lot more fun to play these games because you understand what you need to do and you understand why you need to do it. And then hopefully that leads to more success, because all of these decisions, while simplified, while a little bit more basic, they're still fundamentally sound decisions that are based on GTO. It's not that I think that GTO is worthless. It's that I think that teaching GTO is insanely inefficient. I've taken the time to learn a lot of the GTO mechanics, and I've taken the time to learn a lot of the ins and outs of what GTO is doing. But the reason I was able to learn it is because I went back to these foundational concepts up here, and I understood how the pieces work together. I understood how board texture affected things. I understood how bet sizing affected things. I understood how linear and polarized ranges affected things. I understood how blockers, and then I've been able to take that and take a lot of these complex decisions and simplify them down. So this will take you all the way from pre-flop to river, simplify your thought process, make the game easier to see, slow the game down, give you easier decisions. And then lastly, my favorite section is the move section. Yeah, I literally made a move called Duck, Duck, Goose, and I literally made a move called the Rob Gardner Donkey move. That's not a joke, right? And these are just literally, this is like your escape, if you will, from the monotony. Like, this is where you just get to learn some really cool, fun exploits that, again, still have theory principles tied to them, but they're very easy and fun to learn, and you can implement them right away and have success. Even if you don't learn all of the fancy concepts, you don't master all the situations, you can take Duck, Duck, Goose, which I can teach you Duck, Duck, Goose right here. It's a free video on the site, so I don't even mind teaching you this, which, by the way, I'm going to give you all the details on this in a minute. But like, you can literally go to the site and like 10 of these videos are available. You can watch them right now and get a feel for them. But Duck, Duck, Goose, it's this simple, okay? There's this idea of condensing and uncondensing ranges, which is the more I bet and the more my opponents call, the tighter their range gets. It condenses, right? Well, if we keep their range really wide with a really small bet on flop, and we keep their range really wide with a really small bet on turn, and then we make this really big bet on the river, small bet duck, big bet goose, okay, on the river. Well, there's this thing called MDF, which is another one of the concepts. MDF is minimum defense frequency. And all MDF is it's this number that says if my opponent does not call this percentage of the time, I auto profit. And I'm just going to cut to the chase. I won't go through all the lessons will teach you this better. But the long and short of it is when you bet pot on the river, they have to call a big percentage of the time to stop you from auto profiting. So when we go really small on flop and we go really small on turn and they're floating with their third pairs, with their fourth pairs, with their gut shot straight draws, with their ace highs, and then we bomb the river, they're never calling anywhere near a percentage high enough to stop us from making money. Now, that doesn't mean that every time we bet pot on the river, we just get them to fold and we win every hand. But it means over the long run, when we make that line, we're going to make money consistently over the long run. It's going to be more wins than losses, and the chart's going to go up. Simple exploit. Works in cash games, works in tournaments. Learning these types of things adds to your game, because you can get into a spot and you can be like, you know what? I'm up against Longcar and I'm in this tournament. Longcar's at my table. I'm gonna pull this out and I'm gonna see if he can handle it. And chances are it's something he hasn't seen for or wouldn't expect to see from you in particular. And now you get a fun little thing that you can throw in that makes the game more enjoyable while doing something that's strategically sound. In aviation, we call it chair flying, basically thinking about all the things you learn in a lesson while sitting in a chair and imagining, essentially internalizing the lesson. An hour of chair flying is often more valuable than an extra hour in the airplane because you internalize the lesson. I could not agree more. And I think that because so much training material out there is so deep and so long and so exhaustive. I mean, it's so frustrating to pay even $30 a month and go to a site and see 6,000 hours of training material. Like, these training sites are like, we have 6,000 hours of training material. This is so awesome. No, it's not. What the hell is anybody going to do with 6,000 hours of training material? What are you going to do with it? You could spend 5 years watching that material and not go through 6,000 hours of training material. It's overload. And because there's so much overload, if you don't have time to watch all the material, how the hell are you ever going to have time to do chair flying like Geek's talking about? How are you ever going to have time to practice what you're learning, to implement what you're learning, to have conversations with other people about about using this tactic and what worked and what didn't work and learning from other people's mistakes? There's no time for that because you're sitting here looking at the site you just paid for and you're like, God, I have got to spend more time on this. I'm paying all this money for this site and I haven't even watched 2% of the videos. It doesn't give you a chance to breathe. I've been a live table with Rob in a very big tournament. He's a good dude. I super appreciate that, David. We had fun, man. That was a blast. That's probably my second favorite tournament behind the main. But it probably should be first because we'll probably never get to do that again. Joe says, this is neat. I've been keeping a Word doc last few months for the same reasons. Can't wait to see what you've worked up. I hope, listen, I've had, I offered to let about 8 to 10 people run through some of the videos and get some feedback. Small sample size. Okay, I'm going to be honest. It's a small sample size. It's 8 to 10 people. But the feedback I've gotten was really, really positive and really, really encouraging. People enjoyed the length of the videos. They felt like the concepts were easy to understand. They were explained well. They felt like it was hitting that mark that they were missing with other training sites. So, like, genuinely, I am hoping that this is the answer that a lot of people have been looking for and missing out on. I really, truly want that. The key is that poker's experiential learning curve is too long to allow you to internalize that things are winning over a long term. Thus, these simplified rules can be pretty helpful. Yeah. I mean, even in GTO, it's hilarious. Like, a buddy of mine called me over the weekend, and he was looking up some GTO Wizard spots for Club WPT Gold because he's a cash game player, and they have the straddle over there. Like, a lot of the cash games are like 50 cent, $1, $2. So he was looking up some of the spots, which is fine. Like, again, makes sense, right? You're a cash game player, you play Chip EV, you've got this new format, you want to understand the adjustments. Sure, go for it. Look it up, look some charts. But it was cracking me up because he's like showing the spots and he's looking at the EV. And like, I'm like, EV is the most useless thing to look up in GTO Wizard ever. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, it's always the same number. Like, the EV difference between a quarter pot bet and a 3/4 pot bet and an over pot bet is like 0.0001 chips. Because what happens is when you bet small, your opponents call a lot, which means that we're getting more value because we're getting more calls with our better hands, but we're losing on our bluffs because more hands are calling us, and we're not getting as much value, but it's multiplied over lots of calls. Then when you make a really big bet, well, less people are calling, but you're getting more value from the people that do call. So you're still making the same amount. So the EV just doesn't change that much. And so, again, I say this in the bet sizing video. It's like, I'm going to give you tips for when to go small and when to go big. And we're going to give you a simple heuristic for that. But my God, if you go big on a spot where the heuristic said to go small, the EV difference is trivial. I'm convinced, I don't have the time to do this. I wish I did. But like, I'm convinced I could go play a tournament and only use half pot sizing the entire tournament and win it. I'm 1000% convinced of that. And if I had the time to do that, that would be a great content project just to show that it doesn't matter that much. But to somebody who has spent hundreds of hours working on bet sizing and mastering which sizings are optimal, it's offensive to them to say that it doesn't matter that much. And so what's trickled down from the top in our industry is this idea that everything matters and everything's important. And this is the only way to get to the top. And it's not. It's not. 6,000 hours at 2 hours a day is 8.6 years. And the funny thing is that 6,000 hours number, that was not me being facetious. There are numerous training sites out there with 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 hours of material. It's freaking insane, because literally every single time one of their coaches sits down and does a 3-hour hand history with somebody, they record it and put it on the site. And what sucks about that is you can't even navigate that. You get into a training site like that, you're like, all right, I want to start working on my game. Well, what do you want to work on? Pick from the 500 videos here. Well, I want to work on check raising, I guess. Cool. Well, there's 22 videos about check raising. Which one would you like to dig in on first? And then you get into it and it's like, you know, there's no rhyme or reason to which one. Like there's no progression to it. Like this is simple. Like you want to look up, like, let's say, well, I've never learned blockers. This video on blockers, let's see, 12 minutes. 12 minutes to learn about blockers and unblockers. 12 minutes. That's it. You go on the site, you watch it. And then maybe in 6 months, you want a refresher. You go back and watch it. It takes you 12 minutes. You don't have to find it. You don't have to remember which one of the 18 blocker on blocker videos it is. It's right there. The fact is that most training sites' goal is not to teach you poker, is to get you to resubscribe over and over. Yeah, all right. So let me get to the nitty gritty. Now I'm gonna be honest. I've legitimately stressed about this product, because look, I know there's a lot of people out there who have small bankrolls, and their bankrolls are getting smaller by the month or year because of all the money they've spent on training sites and these other things and this package and that and whatnot. People have spent a lot of money on poker. They don't have a lot of money to play with. At the same time, this project took me, I don't have an exact number, but my best estimate based on how many hours a week I was putting, close to 500 hours to get this thing done. Because I did everything myself. I literally did this entire thing by myself. When I first had this idea, I wanted to do what I always did, which was like run to all my friends and get this to be a group project and all work, because I love working on things with other people. And I had a pause and I was like, the reason I wanted to run and get all my friends involved, this was a confidence thing. I was legitimately uncomfortable putting myself out. And it's not because I'm uncomfortable in the knowledge or what's out here or my teaching abilities. I'm very, very confident in that. But there still was this little part of me back when I had this idea that was like, man, this could get shit on. Like I could see some people coming along and like, well, you know, you don't have $2 million on your head and mob. And I knew at that moment that like I needed to do this solo for my progression. You know, I talked about at the beginning, like I'm in a place where like I don't care what people think. And I was like, this is like my final exam for that. Can I go out and build something all on my own and throw it out with complete confidence and just not care? And so this has been great for me. From just a mental health standpoint and everything else, this has been great. Not that you guys care. So I did the website. I built all the videos. I recorded all the videos. I wrote all the lessons. I did all the editing. It was exhausting. Even just this past week, I spent 16 to 18 hours on this every single day last week. So multiply that by 7. What is that? Like, that's 112 hours just last week that I spent working on this. So what I decided to do is I made this a one-time purchase. I didn't want to make this like some subscription site that keeps like jarring from people. I didn't want to, just slowly drain people. I don't think that's healthy. I think that having a one-time fee, you know what you're getting, you know what you're paying for, and you've got it and you're good. In doing research, a lot of the courses that were out there on the internet were in the like 149, 179, 139, 199 range. I think that's too much. I think that, one, I don't know that there's that much value to those courses. To be fair, I haven't bought a lot of those courses, so I don't know. But just based on what I've heard from friends that have bought in different courses and stuff, it's really hard to spend $200 on something and get $200 of value out of it. So where I settled for now, maybe it'll come down at some point, but where I settled for now is I've got this course set for $99. Now I'm literally within the next 20 minutes after I get done here, I have to fix a quick bug. For people that are premium members over at Rec Poker, they're going to get a $10 discount. So if you're a premium member over at Rec Poker, you can get it for $89.99. And if you're not a premium member at Rec Poker, the first month is $5. So even then, you can go over and get the $5 premium membership at Rec Poker and then get access to the $89.99 plan. We're going to start there, see how it goes. Maybe it comes down or goes on sale at some point. I don't know. But in talking with my friends, this was kind of the sweet spot we came to that was fairly accessible, but at the same time, matched the amount of work that went into it and was still cheaper than a lot of the courses that were out there. So it's there. Now, if you're out there and you're like, literally, my bankroll is $100, I could never, ever afford this, shoot me an email. We'll figure something out. I'll work something out. Whether we have to do a payment plan or, maybe I get you to do some promote. I don't want anybody to be like completely cut out of this, but I would also like to continue doing these types of things. So you'll see on the website, there's this roadmap channel. Like one of the things I want to work on next month is I want to make a global poker master course. This wouldn't be 60 videos like this. This is like the mega course, right? I want to build like a 15 to 20 video course that's specifically geared towards how to have a 30 to 40% ROI in low stakes games on global. Now, this course right here has everything you need to be successful at that level, right? Like if you do everything that's in this course and you apply yourself, you're going to probably have that 30 to 40% ROI. So what that global course is going to be, think of it like an add-on. It's just going to focus on the things that are unique to global. It's going to focus on some of the formats on global. For example, I want to do a video on mystery bounties, right? One of the cool things about mystery bounties on global is it's because they're small fields, it's possible to come to the final table and win every single mystery bounty and win 66% of the prize pool. That changes everything. There is a whole mess of strategy things just for mystery bounties that allow you to achieve a higher ROI because you can win 66% of the prize pool. So a lot of what I'll do in that global master course isn't going to negate this, and it doesn't make this have value. It's just going to be, here's some unique things that you can extract even more money out of, right? I want to do a course in May. I've already got, I'm already booked to be on the Rec Poker podcast the first week of May to talk about poker in Vegas. There's a lot of people out there that are going to go to Vegas for 3 days. They're going to go to Vegas for 5 days. They're going to go for a weekend. They're going to play 1 or 2 tournaments. And I'm going to build a course and talk about like what live play is like in Vegas, what the different venues are like. What's it like to play at the Orleans? What's it like to play at South Point? What's it like to play at the Golden Nugget? What's it like to play at the WSOP? How do you decide which games to prioritize? How much does the rake matter? What are the player pools like? Because playing a tournament at South Point is very different than the Orleans, which is very different than the Golden Nugget. And take people through that. So I say all that to say, I want to keep doing educational material because I want to plug a hole or I want to plug this void that's in poker where I think that a lot of the education is not communicated very well. It's not easy to understand. It's not easy to swallow. So hopefully this does well and it allows me to kind of keep doing these types of things. So this is all available. You can go to rantpoker.com at any time. I would highly encourage every single one of you to scroll down here, or sorry, not scroll down, to go to the courses, and on the left-hand side, this is the sample videos that we started putting out just to see if this product had any interest. If you want the better quality ones, you can actually click on the, you can actually click on the Poker Core course and you'll see some of the videos are free. So you can literally go to the board textures one and you can see the finished product of this. The full videos here. You can even take the quiz at the end. It's free, guys. Like, take advantage of it. And you should be doing this with a lot of things in poker. When there's opportunities to get stuff for free, do it. Go watch 5 of the videos. And if you watch 5 of the videos and you're like, I'm not getting a lot out of this. This teaching style doesn't work for me. Then don't, for the love of God, don't get it. I totally get it. Would not fault you in the least. And I don't want anybody to feel pressured to buy this or get it because it's like, well, I like Rob, so I'm going to buy this. Don't buy it because you like me. Buy it because something I'm talking about today resonates with you and you think this is legitimately going to help you, that you think you're going to play $99 better in the next 6 weeks because of this. If you can do that, then it's a great purchase. And that's, I mean, even me and my wife, we make life decisions in EV. It's hilarious. She doesn't play poker. She has no interest in poker, but she married a poker player. And so we'll literally have discussions like, well, you know, we're debating this purchase. You know, we're going to buy this, or we're going to invest in this, or we're going to, you know, my wife's going to switch jobs soon. And we'll literally, well, what's the EV of you switching jobs, right? And we look at it both from the actual financial EV and then like the life EV, right? You know, what are you gaining? What are you losing? Is it better? Like that's literally how we think about things. And it's no different here. If you're out there and you're like, this is not worth $99, please don't get it. Don't put yourself in a bad spot. But if you think you can do that, if you think this is going to give you $90 of value, then you should do it. There's 62 videos total. If you watched one video a day and gave yourself the time to think about that concept, you could get this entire course done in 2 months. And I believe in this, that if you put the time in and you really apply yourself to these lessons and you spend 2 months on this, you're going to be in a completely different place in your game. Now, we also have a Discord set up. Those of you guys that were in my, you know, back when I was a poker streamer, you know, I had my Discord. It's now the Ramp Poker Discord. You can also get to it by clicking the Discord link at the top of the website. It's free to join the Discord. And there's a scenarios channel in there where if you get stuck on any of this, let's say you watched a video on blockers. We'll go back to the blockers. And you tried a blocker thing based on the video and it worked horribly. And you're like, God, did I do this wrong? Did you teach it wrong? Are you an idiot? Am I an idiot? You can go to come over here to the scenarios channel, right? And pop it in here. Pop the hand in here. And I'm going to respond as hands come in. I'll talk. I'll do the same thing I'm doing in these videos. Same thing I did at the beginning of this, like with the hand history. It's always the same thing. We're coming into a situation, we're looking at the situation, and I'm telling you how to simplify how you should think about this. Like when I'm going through Benny's hand history at the beginning, I'm not trying to teach you how to play ace queen on a queen 9-9 board when it runs out queen 9-9 jack jack. I'm trying to teach you how to take a step back and think about the entire situation so that the decision doesn't take 45 decisions, right? And that's all we're trying to do. That's all we're trying to do here. So there'll be opportunity. Join the Discord for free. You can watch as other people post hands in here. You can learn from the hands that people post here. You don't have to spend any money. But I think this is going to be a game changer for some of you. And I am very, very excited to see it. In fact, let me... It's cheesy, I know, and most of you won't care, but I went when I came up with the name for this site, I wanted something that was cool and brandable. I didn't care whether it made sense. So, you know, we came up with this Ramp Poker thing, which is it's literally a dude that is like doing a handstand on a ramp that's like skateboarding. What the hell does that have to do with poker? I don't know, but it's neon green and it looks badass. And anybody that gets one of the courses and gets their first 1K score after purchasing the course, I'm sending you one of these. This is the only way you're going to get a Ramp Poker patch. You're not going to come to me like, bro, can I have a Ramp Poker patch? No, you got to earn it. But every single person that hits a 1K score after getting one of these courses, I'm going to personally mail you one of these on my own. And I'm excited about that because I want to be in a place where it's like, you guys earned this. Like this is going back to like the Atari days where you got a high score and they'd send you a patch in the mail. Like you could literally back in the day, you get the high score in Pac-Man. They give you a score for Pac-Man. If you got the certain score in Pac-Man, they send you a Pac-Man patch. I'm going to send you a Ramp Poker patch because I want to. It just sounds fun. And I'm looking forward to that. I can't wait to see people post, I just had a $1,200 score because I've learned these concepts and I've applied it. That is going to be this is going to be so much fun. So much freaking fun. I want to see the Hallmark card for Valentine's Day that says you've been my EV plus EV for my life. That's funny. Oh my God, you have a laser blast patch? That's so sick. I was too young, so I was never good enough to earn any of the patches. I was aware of them as a kid, but I've thought about, so I've got, I don't know if I've showed it on this stream or not. I think I have. Oh no! No, 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 no. Oh God, I broke it. Shit. I'm gonna have to find it. Did I break it? Break it? Oh man, I'm gonna be so pissed if I broke it. I'll super glue it back on. I got this. This is an Anbernic RG406 or something. Basically, there's tons of these now. These people make these Android devices that are like handheld consoles, and you can download the emelators and all the games. So like I have everything from Atari through like PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 on here. And this is like my, in fact, I'm actually looking forward to, because now that I'm getting 40 to 50 hours of my week back, I can spend some downtime DJing the old games. And I've actually thought about going back to some of the old Atari games and seeing if I could beat the patch high scores now, just to see if I could do it. Because I think it would be cool. But I totally just like knocked the, there's a thing on the Joy-Con here and I knocked it off. Damn it. We'll find that. All right. Any other questions? Any thoughts? If you want to know this is a great time to get any curiosities you have, any worries, any concerns you want to know about particular videos in the course, you want to oversight about what some of these things are or how I approach certain things. Speak now. This is a great time to ask questions. You'll send me a picture of the $1 million patch if you get it. It's probably worth some money. I would think those are worth money because I can't imagine that there's a lot of them still running around. Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, some of the high scores in those games were like insanely busy. All right. Well, if you have any questions, you guys all know where to reach me. You can hit me on Discord. You can hit me on all of my socials. You'll see me out on social media in the next week doing some cool promotion and talking about all this and showing some highlights of what's going on. Next week on the Rec Poker podcast, there'll be a chance to win this course. So if you're like, I'm not spending a dime on this, Ginger says, look, I can't wait. Ginger, I might just hand deliver yours. I might just literally like show up. And, like wherever you're going to be next, like I might just have to hand deliver yours. But seriously, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. And I really hope that you get a lot of this. And again, like, let's just say you spend money on this and you're like, this is just not doing it for me. Reach out to me. I'm not going to screw anybody over this. This isn't like a get rich scheme or anything like that. Yeah, any questions, reach out. Otherwise, I hope you guys all have a wonderful Monday. I'm going to go record some TikTok and Instagram content. And then Katie Stone's going to be on the Rec Poker Pod tonight. I'll be producing that behind the scenes. So appreciate you all. Thanks for hanging out. And we'll see you guys soon.